My name is Harper. Standing in the opulent private dining room of the lakeside estate, surrounded by 38 guests at my parents' 40th anniversary party, I felt a mix of anger and determination. My mother, Vivian, with a sneer on her face, looked at me and said, "Look at this useless cancer patient. We sold your house and locked you in that nursing home because you're nothing but a pathetic burden on this family." The room fell silent. I stared her dead in the eyes and placed the small black box on the table. "Open it," I said calmly. They thought this would be another night of humiliating me, but they were so wrong. What was about to unfold would shatter their world. Let me take you back a few years. I was living a simple, yet fulfilling life. I was a freelance web developer, and I had a small but cozy house in the Maplewood neighborhood. It was a 2-story cottage that my great-aunt Mildred had left me. There was no mortgage, and it was my little piece of heaven. I had a handful of loyal clients, and I was making around $75,000 a year. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to live comfortably. One fateful morning, during my regular shower, I felt a small lump under my arm. I tried to convince myself it was nothing, just a minor infection or a cyst. But after a few weeks of denial, I finally decided to see a doctor. That's when my world came crashing down. Dr. Emily Carter, a kind-hearted oncologist, told me I had stage 2 breast cancer. The treatment plan was aggressive: 6 rounds of chemotherapy, surgery to remove the tumor, and then 6 weeks of radiation. I was terrified. I sat in the hospital parking lot, looking at my client contracts on my phone, wondering how I could possibly keep my business afloat during this difficult time. I called my parents, and my father, Henry, said, "Don't worry, Harper. We'll take care of everything." At that moment, I felt a glimmer of hope. I thought they meant they'd be there for emotional support, help with appointments, and maybe bring me some home-cooked meals. Little did I know what they really had in mind. My first chemo session was in July. My parents accompanied me to the hospital. They were so attentive at first. My father drove me, and my mother packed sandwiches and magazines. But that night, the side effects hit me like a ton of bricks. I was vomiting constantly, and the bone pain was unbearable. A few days later, my parents suggested I move in with them. Their house was in the upscale Oakwood subdivision, a large, modern house about 30 minutes from mine. I was too weak to argue, so I packed a few bags and moved in. A week after moving in, my father brought me some paperwork. "It's just a power of attorney, Harper. In case something happens during surgery and you can't make decisions," he said. There was a notary, Mr. Thompson, a family friend. I was so exhausted and scared about the upcoming surgery that I didn't read the fine print. I just signed everything, trusting my parents completely. As the chemotherapy progressed, I got weaker and weaker. I was spending most of my time in bed, and my mail stopped coming. I didn't think much of it at the time. One day, I was half awake when I heard my father on the phone in the hallway. "Yes, I have power of attorney. She's in treatment and can't manage. I can sign on her behalf." I was too sick to process what I was hearing. A few days later, my house was put on the market. I had no idea. My parents listed it for $320,000, well below the market value. They told the real estate agent I was too ill to be involved in the transaction. It sold in just a week for $310,000. The money from the house sale, along with the $35,000 I had in my savings account, was transferred into my parents' joint account. They used $150,000 to pay off my younger brother Ethan's credit card debts. Ethan had a gambling problem, and he'd racked up huge debts at the local casinos. The remaining money went into their retirement fund. Then, they decided to put me in a nursing home. They said it was for my own good, that I needed professional care. They took me to visit the Meadowbrook nursing home. The place smelled like disinfectant, and the residents looked so sad and lost. I didn't want to be there, but I was too weak to fight. Once I was in the nursing home, my life became a nightmare. The staff treated me like I was a confused old woman. They took my phone, saying it would make my confusion worse. My friends tried to visit, but my parents told the staff to turn them away. My business started to fall apart as I couldn't respond to my clients. But I didn't give up. I started keeping a journal, documenting every conversation with my parents, every medication round. I knew deep down that something was wrong. After months of treatment, I was finally cancer-free. But I was still trapped in the nursing home. I demanded a meeting with the facility director. When I confronted my parents about the house sale, they lied and said the money was used for my medical bills. I knew it was a lie, so I revoked their power of attorney right then and there. With the help of Dr. Carter, who documented my mental competency throughout the treatment, and a kind-hearted nurse named Lily, I was finally discharged from the nursing home. Lily drove me to a women's shelter, where I met my attorney, Miss Grace Thompson. Ms. Thompson was amazing. She believed me from the start. We started gathering evidence. We got the bank records, which showed the transfer of money to pay Ethan's debts and into my parents' retirement account. We also had recordings that I'd made secretly when I was still in the nursing home, where my parents discussed their plan to keep me institutionalized. The legal battle was long and difficult. My parents hired a high-powered attorney and tried to paint me as an unstable and ungrateful daughter. But our evidence was strong. The trial finally came, and after a few days of deliberation, the jury found my parents guilty on all counts: exploitation of a vulnerable adult, theft, fraud, and false imprisonment. They were sentenced to 16 months and 14 months in federal prison respectively, along with 3 years of probation and full restitution. The civil judgment was for $750,000. Their house was sold, and their retirement accounts were seized to pay back the money they'd stolen from me. Now, back to this anniversary party. As my mother continued to rant, I held up my phone, showing the red recording light. Thank you, Mom, for saying all of this in front of 38 witnesses. This phone has been recording since I walked in. Her face turned white as a sheet. I opened the black box on the table. Inside were a Bluetooth speaker and printed documents. I played the recording of my mother's confession, and the room was filled with gasps. I then held up the court verdict and sentencing order. You stole $285,000 from me while I was fighting for my life. You lied to everyone, and now, everyone knows the truth. Just then, the door burst open. Ms. Thompson walked in, followed by Detective Ryan and 2 uniformed officers. Vivian, Henry, you violated your bail conditions, Ms. Thompson said. My mother started screaming, but it was too late. The officers handcuffed them and led them out of the room. The room was in chaos. My aunt, who had always been kind to me, came over and hugged me. We're so sorry, Harper. We didn't know. I told her that's why I was here, to make sure everyone knew the truth. After the party, I left the lakeside estate. I've since bought a new house, a small 2-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. I've rebuilt my freelance business and started a nonprofit called Survivor's Hope. Our mission is to help people who are going through similar situations, to provide them with legal support and a shoulder to lean on. I've also met someone special, Jake. He's a fellow cancer survivor, and he understands what I've been through. We've been dating for a year now, and it's the healthiest relationship I've ever had. Looking back, I realize that I've not only survived cancer but also the betrayal of my own family. I've learned that I'm stronger than I thought. And if you're going through something similar, remember, you're not alone. You have the power to fight back, and you will win.